Okay, so we're going to be starting on two variables. So this is section 3.1. It's on linear equations, and it's involving two variables. Okay, so before I freak you out, let's go back to something you're familiar with. You see number lines, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, the minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. So supposedly this number line is one number line, and let's say I have another number line. So if I have two number lines, I cannot put them on top of each other. So the only way is to put it like a cross. Okay, so it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3 upwards, and minus 1, minus 2. So because they're two number lines, we have to name them with different letters. So the horizontal one was agreed to be called X, and the vertical one is called Y. So from then on, we are now able to pinpoint a location, and to pinpoint a location, we're going to need two numbers this time. Okay, so this is what we call an ordered pair. So to pinpoint a location, you're going to need two numbers, one coming from the X and one coming from the Y. So it was agreed that we always have to name the X first before the Y. Okay, so the X is always in the first spot. So if you look at this one right here, this location right here, the first spot is your 3, and the second spot is the Y number, and so that's 1. So look downwards for the X and look sideways for the Y. Okay, so this is what we call an ordered pair. So being an ordered pair means it's not up to you or me to change the way we name the points. Okay, so if we had named it backwards and we name it as 1, 3, then we're referring to this location because the X is 1 and the Y is 3. Now what happens if the point sits on the X-axis? Okay, so now let's think a little bit. The number is -2, and -2 is referring to the X. Now where is X sitting on? The first spot or the second spot? Okay, so that tells you that the -2 has to be on the first spot. So the second spot is 0, because sideways the number is 0. Now what happens if the number is, say, this number right here? So the -1 is on the Y, so it occupies the second spot. So the first spot is now going to be 0. So that's what happens when it sits on the axis. Okay, so now that you understand how the ordered pair works, there's a few things that you need to know how to do. First thing you need to know how to do is, if I gave you a line, okay, so if I say, okay, can you determine if, say, -3, 2 is a solution of, let's say, 2x plus 3y equals 1. Okay, so what it means, if you call, when you give me two numbers, who is in the first spot? The first spot is always X, and the second spot is always for Y. So in so many words, I'm telling you that X is -3 and Y is 2. So wherever you see X, you replace by -3. And if you recall, 2x means 2 times x, so really it means 2 times -3 plus 3 times, and the y, if you draw from the point, is 2. So the question is really asking you, if you take 2 times of the x and 3 times of the y, does your answer come up to be 1? That's what it's asking. Okay, so, well, you check. 2 times -3 is -6. 3 times 2, that's a 6, right? So -6 plus 6 is 0. So no, it's not 1. So not a solution, like that. Okay? So one way to ask you the question is where we give you a point and we ask you to determine if it is a solution. Another way to ask you is, can you complete the ordered pair? So in the first case is where we gave you the pair and ask you if it works. Okay, so another way is, can you complete the ordered pair pairs for, let's say, 3x minus y plus 2 equals 0. And let's say we say 2 comma something, and let's say 0 comma something, and something comma 0. Okay, so your job is to fill in all these all these spots. So if you look at the first pair, as you can see, the 2 sits in the first location. Remember, in the first location is for x. So basically it's telling you that x is 2, but it's not telling you the y. Okay, so no problem. So just substitute x as 2. So it's going to read 3 times 2. I'm substituting into the equation. Okay, the relationship is given to me right here. So substitute x as 2. So 3 times 2 minus y plus 2 equals 0. So the difference between the second type and the first type of problem is in the second type, you want to make it equal to 0, like you want to make it true. Okay, your job is to figure out what number must I put into the y to make it true. So 6 minus y plus 2 is equals to 0, so 8 minus y has to be 0, which means that negative y has to be negative 8, and so y must be 8. So in other words, for the pair to work, when the x is 2, the y has to be 8. So there you have it. We found the missing candidate. So this is what you call complete the ordered pair. Okay, so let's try the next problem. Again, the 0 is in the first spot, so it's telling me that x is 0. So I substitute x as 0. It's going to read 3 times 0 minus y plus 2 equals 0. Now 3 times 0 is still 0, right? Gone. Negative y plus 2 is 0, so negative y is negative 2, which means y is 2. So that tells me if x has to be 0, then y has to be 2. That's one pair. Okay, so when you have a missing coordinate, basically it's saying, can you find the missing candidate? Now, if you compare this one, this time the 0 is in the second location. So for those of you who are still lost, if you look at this up there, remember all the pair means 2 numbers. First number is always x, second number is always y. Okay, that's never going to change. So because the 0 is in the second location, the second spot, okay, the one on the right side after the comma, so that means it's telling me that y is 0. So now instead of substituting into the x, I have to now put into the y portion. So it's going to be 3x, since I don't know what is x, right? But I know y is 0 this time. Plus 2 equals 0. So 3x plus 2 is 0. 3x is negative 2. So x is going to be negative 2/3. So there you have it. The missing candidate is negative 2/3 to match with the 0. Okay, so they all come in terms of pairs. There are times when we give you the pair and ask you if it works. Another way to ask you is we give you a part of the pair and you find the missing candidate, the missing component. Okay, so the third way that we can ask you the question is where we give you all the freedom to choose. Okay, so the way we ask you the question will be like, can you find 2 ordered pairs that satisfy 2x minus 3y equals 4, let's say. Okay, so this time we're giving you the freedom. All we want is 2 pairs. Okay, so you find me 2 pairs of numbers and such that it satisfies this equation. So all of a sudden you are free to choose whatever you like. So this is where you choose. Okay, so you can either choose for x and solve for y, or you can choose for y and solve for x. So the bottom line is you only get to choose for one. Okay, so you cannot say, hey, I like 0 to pair with 5. It doesn't work like that. Okay, you can only choose for x or you can choose for y, but not both. Okay, you cannot choose both. Alright, so you're free to pick whatever you like. So let's say I want to pick y to be 0. Okay, so 0 is always a hot choice. And the reason why 0 is a good number because I'm going to put 0 into the y location. And if you recall, 3 times 0 is 0. Okay, so what I end up with is 2x is equals to 4 and x equals to 2. So there you have it. 2, 0 is one pair. Again, first location is for x, second location is for y. Okay, so that's why we name it as 2, 0. So that's only one pair. We asked for 2 pairs. So now you pick again. Okay, so you can pick whatever you like. So let's say I want to pick I cannot pick axis 2, okay? Watch out, because axis 2 is right here. I cannot pick axis 2, so I can pick whatever I like. So let me pick for y again, okay? So let me pick y to be 1. So what happens is this 2x minus 3 times 1 is equal to 4, right? So because this time I chose y to be 1, so 2x minus 3 is equal to 4. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. 2x is equal to 7. Divided by 2 tells me x is 7 over 2. So my pair is going to be, remember, x first and then y. So x 7 over 2 and y is 1. So those are my two pairs. Okay? So here is where you're given a lot of freedom, right? So you just pick two pairs, but you're free to pick whatever you like. That's what we mean by total freedom. Okay, so now that you know how to figure out what are ordered pairs, the next thing you need to know how to do is, do you know how to plot the points? So plotting the points means now that you have found the point, so use these examples. Okay, so take for example, can you plot 2, 0, and can you plot 7 over 2, comma 1? So you're going to have to draw yourself a grid. Remember, the vertical axis is your y, and the horizontal axis is your x. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 1, minus 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. Okay? So mark down the point. Now, if you look at this one, 2, 0, the x is 2. Okay, so one of them is 0, so it tells you it's on the axis, and it's going to be this one right here because it sits on the x. So label the point next to the dot that you created. Next number, 7.5. Now, where is 7.5 on my graph? Now, that's going to be a bit tricky, so the easiest way to do is to convert to mixed number. So convert to mixed number. So 7.5, you recall, is like 3.5 comma 1. So that tells me it's between 3 and 4, right? So my x is between 3 and 4, that's 7.5, and my y value is 1. So bring them towards each other, and there you have it. That's the location, 7 over 2, comma 1. Okay, so in 3.1, there's a few things you need to know how to do, and those are basically it.